right, welcome everybody. My name is Lucian Fogoros. Welcome to another episode of CXO Insights. This episode will focus on digital transformation in manufacturing, and our guest is Peggy Gulick of intelliShift. Welcome, Peggy.
Thank you. Thank you.
Now, Peggy brings a powerful track record in driving digital transformation at scale. She has served as Executive Vice President of Innovation and Optimization at General Motors, has also held senior leadership roles at Kohler and AGCO, sits on a board of Women in Manufacturing, and is recognized as a voice in advancing digital transformation across industry. Later this month, Peggy will be in Cleveland for an executive roundtable on digital transformation organized by Magnet in collaboration with Women in Manufacturing and IIoT World. It's a timely conversation. As SBA noted in March, small firms make about 98% of all manufacturing companies. So the future of manufacturing depends on how these firms embrace change, and Peggy is uniquely equipped to help lead that discussion. So Peggy, maybe in the context of a small manufacturing with 20 people or less, what's the one thing digital transformation does that can make their work or products undeniably better? What's the single urgent reason they can't afford to ignore it?
Right. So I think I thank you for having me today, and I appreciate the questions and the ability to chime in with the industry on success. I look again. You mentioned I come from large companies. However, I can say I've been in private and public sector, and anywhere from $10 million companies to $40 billion companies, and there's a lot of similarity, in my humble opinion, of driving that success, right? It's all about finding the value, solving the problem, right? Not just going straight to the automation side. And I look at companies, smaller companies, that are bringing in 100 gigabyte to 10 terabytes of data already, right? And what are we doing with that data so that we can be, in the industry, Amazon-like service, right, to provide the real-time updates and easy ordering from outside of our own businesses. I look at the large company side. Digital is a strategy, doesn't always trickle down all the way to the floor. We need to work on that. And for smaller companies, it really equates, in my humble opinion, to survival. Right, we really need to get our arms around that data, get real-time answers, and be able to compete in the industry with information that drives value.
Now, thanks for those insights. The biggest cultural blocker you've seen in smaller groups, maybe adapting new tech, and what exactly did you do to turn the team?
So it's a great question. I think from that perspective, a lot of companies are going at this as if it's only a technology solution, right? We've got to bring in all the new cool technology, and yet the successes I've seen have really come back to the culture side. So, finding the value in the technologies really comes from more of that progressive adoption of new ways of thinking. My first thing would be to say, don't abandon your lean toolbox. This is all about our lean toolbox, right? Problem solving skills, visual boards, checklists, standard work templates, right? That's what makes change stick and sustainability on these things that we're trying to change. So I have a great example of that, I think, is really at AGCO, we had a 6-person Kaizen. They did it on their own in the lunchroom at a whiteboard because the final factory inspection team was having problems getting to computers in the corner. They were safety issues. They were non-conforms that were outdated by the time they made it into a system. And so they looked for a solution to drive that. They came back with carrying tablets, right? Tablets is a great idea. However, when you carry tablets and you're climbing up on tractors, you could drop them, and warranties are 4 feet and under. So now you have a $4,000 rugged tablet that really is not going to do anything for you. That's when IT came in and they did a little Kaizen and said, we've got to fix this. We can't have these on our desk every Monday and have to replace these. And so they came in and really came back in with a tongue-in-cheek, hey, let's find a way that they can wear their solutions so that we can fix that. Innovative thinking is a huge piece of this, small or large. And that's that culture piece where we allow them to innovatively think. We give them the time to try things to solve a problem. So in this case, they went back and they found Google Glass. They brought in a vendor, Proceedix. They brought in Google. They brought in 3M. And we kicked the tires. We did a proof of concept. Is it even a viable solution? So I think that piece of it is really important. The other piece is the leadership role. Leadership's got a large or small company, and we talked a little bit about this before we started formally speaking today. You have to be present. You've got to be out on the floor. You got to see the problem. You got to understand the problem, and you've got to be able to talk to the people who are innovating to ask how it's going. Because the first thing that goes wrong, they're going to put that innovation aside and go right back to the ways they used to do things. So my last piece on that is really it comes back to personalization. Are we really giving the user a better way of working? And there's different levels of users, advanced, new. I mean, how do we treat all those differently? And then sheer grit, right? The grit to really be there, be present, follow that solution through to make sure it's sustained and that the users have what they need to make it a good solution. It's not the cool factor. It's not walking through a plant and seeing people in Google Glass. It's the people using that glass to drive 30 to 40% efficiency into their process, right? That you really want to talk about.
Thank you for that. Now, you've talked a little bit about culture, got a little bit into the technology side and then leadership. Maybe double click a little bit on a tech side. What's the one small tech shift a team in manufacturing could implement in a single day that delivers visible wins? So everybody's looking for quick wins to kind of start moving the needle.
Yeah, that's a great question. So I'm going to go back one step from tech, and I'm going to go back to really simple. So there's nothing wrong with starting manually. And I know this goes against every grain of being digitally transformed and technically advanced, but having plexiglass boards, having something where management can walk through and see a system was down from 2 till 4 and this is why it was down, right? And when we start capturing things manually, I'm a true believer in manual. I'm a true believer in going back to that lean toolbox to really see what we're trying to solve, because sometimes we're perceiving a problem that really might not be the actual problem. So going back and really understanding the problem and having manual visibility is a great thing. One of the solutions that I found to be quite quick, and again, it's a mindset, is and-on. So a lot of companies that I've been working with are trying to take and-on and immediately have it integrated into their MES and doing all kinds of bells and whistles. If you just start with a simple and-on of red or green, and then having someone respond to it, you're training your users to get the help they need when they need it more real time. So there's a lot of value that comes in to putting in unintegrated solutions that drive change in behavior on your plant floor. And now that's not saying that you haven't already sat down and thought, how will I integrate this, right? You don't want to put solutions in that are a complete throwaway and can't move forward with you. But I think that's a huge factor. So Kohler, we had a great example. We put in a solution called, it was just a light on, light off. And that took 3 or 4 Kaizen, right? Because we had to sit down, implement it, train the users, and then figure out how to bucket the information that was coming in, and then show that grit to be on the floor to say, hey, you're waiting for material. Why didn't you hit your and-on, right? Because we're going to get faster help to you if you can do that. I think the one common factor in all manufacturing to me has been, I've never, ever worked with a person in operations, ever, that maliciously was trying to do a bad job. They're all trying to do their job better. So when you show them that that tool brings the help in faster and they can do their job better and they can meet their goals better, they're going to embrace it and take it to the next level all by themselves, right? They're going to ask you, how do we integrate this now so that we can get even greater value from it? So that I think that's a key piece of how you do that. I think the other areas I've seen fast turnaround, digital work instructions. Now, that being said, your digital work instructions, your work instructions themselves need to be right? If you give a whole bunch of instructions to an operator that are not going to get the job done right, or they're going to take different steps, they're not going to trust that. So again, I've seen where it took 18 months to go work cell by work cell and really go back through those work instructions and make sure they're accurate so that you can put them out there and have everybody working the same way. Yeah, but I think that's it's a key point here. So, don't be afraid to go backwards before you go forwards. Don't be afraid of plexiglass boards and visuals that allow you to see what's going on. Focus on the actual problem, not the perceived problem, and then drive value into that in a crawl, walk, run approach, right? Don't go right for run and fly, because it's really hard to get there unless the culture owns it and is already believing in it.
Got it. Thanks. Now, next week you'll be in Cleveland. I referenced earlier, and if you draw a circle, you drive in about three directions. It's half a day. It's about half a U.S. manufacturing. So a lot of small companies. Uh, what's the smartest way to get those shop owners or the smaller company and to leverage partners or university or even advocacy groups like the Magnet to scale faster? What advice do you have for them?
That is such a great question. And I have to be honest, that's where my favorite part of this whole thing is collaboration and how do you bring people in to want it as badly as you do, right? So to understand that problem. So I'm a true believer that we in the industry are surrounded with collective genius
Mhm.
and guiding hubs like Magnet. But I've seen not but and I've seen plugins to universities. So great example in my path has been capstones at universities. Now, the thing with that is some may say, yeah, I've done that, but I didn't get much value. It's how much we invest in that capstone that drives the value. So if we have a capstone with a school and they're solving a problem for us, but we're not plugged in there at least weekly at minimum to make sure we're giving them the help they need to really be solving our problem, it's hard to take away a solution. University of Illinois Research Park, I've worked with them. I've set up offices there where students come across and they actually are employees of the company then to take a problem and solve a problem, take a project on and solve a problem. Suppliers, I think we don't push our suppliers buttons hard enough to say, hey, you want this as badly as we do, we'll be a showcase, come in, make sure we're trained, make sure we're addressing every problem. So when we did the glass solution in AGCO, Google, 3M, Proceedix, they came in quarterly to talk to the coworkers, not to me, to talk to the workers who were doing the solution to say, hey, how's it going? How can we do it better? How can we make this more efficient for you? And then those centers of excellence. And I think in small companies, they may not be as big, but the roadmap and the cross-functional team, even in a small company, and then that playbook that everyone's running from is really important. And then my last say is a place that I've invested now is fractional. So fractional consultant contractor. We have so many names for things, right? Industry 4.0, smart factory, digital transformation. But same here. I think if you bring in someone who's been there, done it, you have a great opportunity of not having to hire a digital transformation leader, but get their experience, get that roadmap put in place, and then have checkpoints back with that person to make sure that it's actually happening.
Great, thank you. And it's a good segue into my last question about whether it's fractional or the type of leadership. From your experience at places like GM or AGCO, what's the one leadership lesson about driving change in a smaller group that you've learned the hard way, something no expert or book can teach you?
Yeah, so that's again, I go back to this manual. People I know grimace sometimes thinking we have to go right to drones and lights out. But to get there, I truly believe the companies I've seen that have been successful are, yes, driving the strategy. So let's go back to Fortune 500. If the strategy doesn't make it to the floor, there's really very little value in the strategy or the roadmap. Um, get out of the office. I being on the floor and asking the users how it's going, how we can help, and then responding with help is critical. Personalizing the change has been, I've seen in everything I've done, critical. So let's go back to standard work instructions. Again, if I have a experienced employee in this operation that hasn't had quality issues making this exact product for 20 years, they may only need to know if a widget changed or if there's quality issues coming from up the line, right? They may only need to know two or three things. If I'm a new employee or an employee that just started in this operation, I may need to walk through every instruction just to make sure, right, I'm getting really well versed in how we produce that, and I'm not setting the process time back because I'm doing it my way, right, so that I can follow through. And then I think really, again, I'm going to go back to grit. acting quickly, acting persistently. If you really want these innovative changes, you can't just swoop in, introduce them, and then swoop out and expect them to stick.